Hey, this is Helen. I hope this video is catching you well. Today I'm going to be talking about the most common food sensitivities. So what is a food sensitivity? It's different from a food allergy in that most of the time it's not life-threatening, but it may cause a lot of discomfort and cause a lot of digestive issues. And no, you're not crazy if you eat something and you find that you're getting migraines or joint pains or something totally unrelated to your digestive system, or you might be in digestive distress. Just know that it's very common. And today I'm going to go through some of the most common foods that cause these discomforts in a lot of people. And in another video, I'm going to be talking about how to actually figure out if it's if you are actually sensitive or intolerant to those foods and how you might be, go about getting some testing for them. So here we go. Let's dive right into it. Foods. Number one is dairy products. So dairy products are one of the most common foods that people are sensitive to. So dairy products can cause a lot of distress in your digestive system. You might feel a little cramping, gassiness, and a lot of people actually have respiratory symptoms along with that, as well as skin symptoms. And a lot of people are actually lactose intolerant, which further, adds to the discomfort. A lot of people lack the enzyme to actually digest the lactose, which is the sugar in milk. And dairy products also contain casein, a protein in milk that is highly allergenic and it's very hard to digest. Foods include milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, ice cream, anything that's derived from not only cows but also goats and other animals. The second food that a lot of people are sensitive to or have intolerance to are eggs. Now, eggs are one of the favorite foods in the United States and the US. Yes, but it is also a major allergen, especially for children. And a lot of people in their adulthood have a really hard time digesting egg. For example, one of those people is myself. Whenever I used to eat eggs, I used to have all sorts of gassiness and cramps, and I didn't know why, right? And I didn't know I had a sensitivity to eggs. The third type of food that a lot of people have a food sensitivity to or a food intolerance to are peanuts. Peanuts are also one of the top allergens around, and even if you're not allergic to it per se, a lot of people are still very sensitive to peanuts. The next group of food that a lot of people have sensitivities to is shellfish. So shellfish, I can't even pronounce the word. Shellfish includes clams, crabs, lobsters, oysters, scallops, and shrimp. So, and a lot of people are very reactive to the proteins in shellfish. Number 5, this is a big one, and this is gluten. A lot of people is very reactive to gluten, which is a protein found in wheat, barley, rye, and some other grains. So if you're someone who has celiac disease or you have irritable bowel syndrome, then many of you are reactive to gluten. And even if you're not, are allergic to gluten, you're probably really sensitive to it. And interesting enough, there are over 20 different types of gluten. So if you're not sure if you are, then I would just avoid it altogether. And the great news is that now we live in a time where there is more awareness about gluten sensitivity, and there's a lot of products out there that are gluten-free. Not all are healthy, by the way. Just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's healthy, but we're lucky in that we do have a lot of gluten-free options around, and nowadays restaurants are definitely more aware of gluten sensitivity issues. The next food is corn. So isn't corn healthy? Well, corn was once healthy, but with all the GMO and the modification going around, a lot of people have become very reactive to corn in the foods. And the bad news is that our food is so processed that corn can be found in so many different foods. So make sure you read the food label to make sure that there's no corn inside if you are sensitive to corn. The next food is soy, and a lot of people is reactive to soy. But personally, from experience and from research, I think it is highly processed soy that causes a lot of problems for many people. And I was actually told by a doctor that if you look at soy and its molecular structure, it's very similar to dairy. If you are someone who is reactive to dairy, then a lot of times you are reactive to soy as well, because at a molecular level, they are so similar. Now, a lot of cultures, like Chinese culture, I'm Chinese, and a lot of, say, like Japanese culture, soy has been in those cultures' diets for a long, long time. The difference is that either the soybeans are fermented or they eat in whole and they're cooked very well. So they are eating the whole bean, and the bean in traditionally has not been genetically modified. And the trouble with soy these days is that 80% of soy has been genetically modified, and also it's very, very highly processed. So the soy milk that you're going to get in the stores compared to soy milk that you find in Asia is very different in terms of texture and taste. In Asian countries, literally it is. A lot of people make their own soy milk at home. They put the whole soybean and water in a machine and it beats it up and it turns into soy milk. That is very different from the soy milk we find in Western grocery stores, where it is so highly processed. The next food group that a lot of people have sensitivity to and they have trouble digesting are meats like beef, pork, and lamb. A lot of people find that they have a lot of trouble digesting these because of, it's just such high protein and also high fat, that a lot of people, if they have digestive issues and they eat these meats, it's very, very hard for them to digest. Not to mention that conventionally raised animal meat, so many of these animals are given hormones and antibiotics, and all of that goes into your body. So if these meats are a problem for you, then try and go for grass-fed meats and also leaner cuts as well. You can find that it may help, and just eat smaller portions of these foods. The next food group that a lot of people have food sensitivities to is coffee and caffeine. It's a very stimulating food. And some people find that it stimulates their bowels too much. So some people are good with coffee, and other times it causes a lot of symptoms like palpitations, jitters, cold sweat, migraines, headaches. These are all very common symptoms of someone who is sensitive to coffee and caffeine. And most common food sensitivities that people have. If you are someone who have sensitivities to these foods, then it's a great idea to try an elimination diet where you are cutting out these foods and seeing how you feel. And also, if you want to know for sure, it's definitely wise to get tested for them. So if you find this video helpful, tag someone you know that this video may help, or feel free to share it as well.